Humans use water for everything, from drinking to bathing to growing crops, supporting livestock, fish farms, shipping goods, generating electricity, and for leisure. Yet, climate change is producing profound changes in the precious commodity, threatening water availability, access, and even quality.
Contrary to what we think, the water on this earth is not infinite, which explains why 70% of the earth is covered in water, but then there are billions of people that die because of lack of potable water. At some point, we're going to experience shortage of potable water. Geographically, some places have more water than others. So obviously, places like the desert that don't have as much water and that don't have as much rainfall over the years would have to look at ways to recycle water and conserve it.
In order to make water available, especially for agriculture, for domestic purposes, you need to start thinking of how to conserve water.
According to Batino and Waswa, in a climate hot map report in 2011, the consistent demand for water led old civilizations to practice various forms of water conservation to fulfill an increasing demand for water in irrigated agriculture and domestic needs in arid and semi-arid regions. Water recycling or conservation as a term has come to stay.
Water recycling is making use of wastewater and treating it to make it reusable to meet demands for the populace, especially where there is drought. So when this water has been treated, it can be used for domestic purposes, for irrigation and on the farms.
Water recycling itself is man-made, but generally talking about it, water is naturally recycled. Like rain falls and it's evaporated through condensation and then clouds form and then it falls again. It's a process that has been going on for years and years. But when we talk about the term water recycling in this context, we're talking about man taking that process into their own hands and doing it ourselves.
The Climate Change Hot Map report in 2011 states the impacts of a warming world are already being felt by people around the globe.
Climate change has brought about droughts in some areas. For example, the Lake Chad basin, the water in Lake Chad has shrunk. So people who live in that area, the water supply in that area is not the way it used to be.
If climate change continues unchecked, it stands to reason that the impact will get worse, from rising sea levels to more incidences of heat waves from weather fluctuations.
We need to adapt to this in terms of our infrastructure. Like our drainages need to be bigger because it's going to carry a lot more water. That's to curtail flooding. But of course, all of this needs government policy. There has to be a policy to support all this. And at the moment, there isn't a policy to do that, but we're hoping that in the near future, government will pass that policy and then we'll start to look at water recycling as a viable means of survival.
There are uncertainties among the nations vulnerable to climate change over the availability of water resources in the future. Africa, according to the Climate Hot Map report, is one of the driest continents and currently facing severe water shortages in countries like Chad and Nigeria, where there are cases of desert encroachment and drought. This produces its own set of difficulties as over 90% of agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa is rain-fed.
In the north, we do a lot of agriculture, and the north is prone to drought. So by the time we do water recycling, we don't need to rely on rain-fed agriculture. That means food will be available all year round because we are doing irrigation. Irrigation also helps to manage water because there's no waste.
There are steps we can take through water recycling to adapt or kind of cushion that effect on us. Some of these methods are desalination of water. The desalination is taking this water, harnessing it, passing it through membranes. There are different processes to doing it, and then making it safe and portable for you and I to use. There's another way in which we can recycle water, which is called rainwater harvesting. Every year we experience two seasons in Nigeria. There's the rainy season and the dry season, basically. So with climate change, these things are changing. The rains are a lot harsher and they fall more often when it's rainy season, and then so as the dry season, it's very dry and it's really hot. Rainwater harvesting basically looks at when the rain is falling, collecting that water at some point, and then harnessing it and then using it when there is available water or there isn't adequate rainfall.
We cannot rely on rain-fed agriculture anymore. We need to start conserving water, we need to start recycling water, because it also helps to save the environment, because this waste water that is being recycled, you see them in the sludge in our environment. By the time you're recycling water, you're also cleaning up the environment, so the water is channeled to where it's going to be recycled. So it also enhances our environment, and we know that in Nigeria today we have a lot of dirty environment. So if we were doing water recycling, it's also adding to clean up the environment.
What we call grey water that has been used before from washing cars, that flows into the storm drains or sewage, that can be reclaimed. It can be treated to a certain extent, which is safe for plants and animals even. So we can use that for irrigation instead of tapping into new sources of water. Another process by which we can reuse water without having it go through pumps and things, the carbon-based energy basically, is storing this water in detention tanks and exposing it to direct sunlight, which has ultraviolet rays. And that in itself is a method of treating water because it kills germs, and then it can deflate through gravity to the field where it can be used for irrigation.
As climate change continues to impact water availability and access in Africa and throughout the world, it's important for nations to take water conservation and recycling seriously.